Hey everybody, I'm Mike. I'm hoping to eventually get a whole lesson plan going designed to take you from a beginning user of technology up to the intermediate bracket, but a lot of that depends on how my GoFundMe and or Kickstarter campaigns turn out. So that's what this video is all about, so you can kind of get an idea of how I'd like to teach and how I'd like the whole lesson plans to turn out. For now, I've got a lesson for you on how to protect your computer from malware. Now, malware, in case you didn't know, it's a really terrible thing where a lot of really terrible people create really terrible programs that can do a lot of scary things like break your computer, steal your personal information, and hold your important files for ransom. There's a virus out there that will lock your hard drive, and in order to get the password, you have to pay the virus's creator just to get your files back. So I'll cover what these dangers are and how they get to us, and then a really good mindset that will help avoid it all. Just to kind of cover what's out there, we've got malware that comes in a few different flavors. We've got adware, we've got virus, and we've got spyware. Other names and terms you might hear are Trojans, worms. Malware is just the term I use to kind of cover everything. It's not super important because they're all bad for you and they all can be dealt with in the same way. So the first type I want to talk about is adware. And adware consists of the noisy pop-ups. It's the buy this and click here to claim your prize pop-ups designed to annoy you and get you to buy stuff. They might pop up every time you click a program, every time you open your web browser. It's annoying, but it's not the worst of the bunch. Next up, we've got viruses. Viruses are noisy too, but maybe not at first. Sometimes they stay hidden before they even get to work. It can make them harder to find, and they can cause a lot of problems for you. They can damage your system by making your computer run hot. They can delete files, and like I said before, they can even hold your files for ransom. Viruses are designed to annoy and destroy. And then in my opinion, the worst, we've got spyware. And spyware stays hidden all the time. And the reason for that is because if you find spyware, it can't work anymore. That's true for all the rest. But spyware wants to stay hidden because spyware wants to record every keystroke you type. That's one type of piece of spyware that you can get. By recording every single keystroke, it can save usernames, password information, credit card numbers, social security numbers, anything at all that you type into the keyboard. So this is really dangerous stuff, and it's responsible for a lot of identity theft. So this is all the stuff that's floating around out there. It's waiting to get into your computer. Luckily, there's only a few things that we have to do to keep ourselves safe, but I'll get into that in a moment. Right now, I want to talk about how all this stuff gets into our computers and why we fall for it. Now, our computers are actually pretty good at keeping things out. If we've got a router like we're supposed to, a Wi-Fi router, they've usually got the 4 ports in the back of them. That's a way you can make sure you've got one. Or you can call your internet service provider and make sure you're working through a router. Now, if we've got a router, we're in a sort of protective bubble that keeps any old thing from coming in. We have to tell the computer what is and isn't all right to let in. And we've been doing it this way for a really long time. Another form of bubble that we can have on, that it's a good thing to go with your router, is an antivirus program. And a firewall, which is built into most Windows and Mac devices. Most devices in general. Your router is another form of firewall. Now, there are ways to try and break through the bubble to find holes in its defenses, but wouldn't it be a lot easier for a piece of malware to disguise itself as something that is safe, something that we do like to let into our bubble? Malware plays on a couple of factors in our lives in order to get into our bubble, in order to get into our systems. Now, one of the main things is we're in a hurry and we get used to certain visuals to lull us into a sense of security. As an example, I'm going to show you an ad because ads can use the same tactics sometimes and can even contain malware themselves. So in this scenario, we need a file online and we need it ASAP. So let's imagine we found our very important file on this site here. And again, we're in a hurry, so we don't have the time to look at all this information, and because I'm in such a hurry, my eyes immediately find a Download Now button. And if we really scrutinize, we'll see a few red flags here, but remember, we're in a hurry, so we click this big green Download Now button, which even says it twice. This must be what we need, right? Well, unfortunately for us, this is actually an ad and not what we need, and we fell for it for a couple reasons, not only because we're in a hurry. Number one, we've got the fancy download buttons. The color actually has a lot to do with this. A lot of sites many years ago used these download buttons because they were easy to find. Advertisers and malicious programmers eventually caught onto this big green download button, and now they use the same exact tactics. Placement. Placement is another big factor. We've been reading top to bottom, left to right our whole lives, and this button finds itself in that very spot. It's the first download button we see. Even if we look at the information within the button, we can see that the Download Now button starts on the very left. And as we work our way right, we get to the information that might tell us, oh, this is an advertisement. And that's actually in the very bottom right, the very last thing we would read. So the next thing I want to show you is what's called the Flash Player Installer, or at least the fake Flash Player Installer. Flash is something that your computer needs to display some things that you might find on some websites. Just to show you, this is the site of the company that makes Flash. It's Adobe. Take note of the gray, the white, and the red. That's really important. This is the brand. These are the colors for Adobe Flash. I bring that up because sooner or later you may be browsing a website only to have something like this pop up. Now this is fake and probably something we don't really want on our computers. Again, note the gray, white, and red. This is the fake program using Adobe's actual colors to lull us into that sense of security. We may not even consciously be noticing it, but we become a little more at ease with these colors because they're what Adobe actually uses. Now here's another even more familiar image that contains malware. This is a dialog box. This is something that our system uses to show us normal stuff, show us error messages, show us help messages. This is specifically a Google Chrome one, and viruses and malware can use things that you're familiar with to make you feel safer about pushing that OK button. Now I want to break for a second to talk about a concept that you might be familiar with. In a lot of sales environments, there's a concept of pushing, or essentially add-ons. Now, you'll see this when the fast food worker might ask if you like a drink with your meal. This is where the cell phone salesman might ask if you like insurance with your phone, or a fancy case or something. And this is where the car salesman might ask if you want an extended warranty. And whether or not this is stuff that you might actually want or need doesn't really matter. What I'm really trying to get at is that this concept of pushing is all over the internet. And it's not safe to act on in the same way as these real-world scenarios. Now, I'm not talking about sales environments specifically in the case of the internet. I just want you to notice that in almost every case, you have to physically download something on your computer to have it become infected. You have to allow something through that protective bubble I was talking about, something that was pushed on you. It exists in the download buttons here. It's a little bit sneakier there, but like I said, it's something that's being pushed on you, something that you don't really want. You asked for the specific download button, but they pushed their item on you, this one up here, with a big green download button. And it's much, much clearer with the Flash player here. You just so happen to be browsing and now you're being pushed into downloading this Flash player. Updates are a really big one, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. But another place that this concept of pushing is really prevalent is in email scams. Emails are a big way to get you to click or download something. They've pushed this link on me here, in this case, telling me to click it because my account is in danger. I don't know how well you can read this, depending on your video quality, but essentially it's saying that somebody hacked into my American Express account, and as a precaution they've frozen it. And I need to click this link down here just to get my account working again. Now, maybe I would like to be notified about account troubles, but this is still being pushed on me as an extra service, which, by the way, most banks don't even offer these email notifications. Most banks call you. Even phone calls, though, aren't 100% safe. There was a scam going around a little while ago. Someone would call claiming to be from Microsoft tech support. They would say that your computer is in danger and that they'd need to log into it remotely, or in other words, they would hop onto my computer from their location far away so that they can fix a vulnerability that my computer might have. Now, this is another thing. Microsoft would never ever call and approach anyone with such an offer. This just does not happen. This was actually a scam meant to harm people or their computers in some way. I don't know specifically if it was a virus or adware or spyware or what, but this tech support was pushed on people. They did not ask for it, they were offered it. That's what this video is all about. Adware, viruses, spyware, all of that gets into your computer through the product you didn't ask for. I'm going to slow down a lot here, and I'm really going to make sure that you get this. So again, we go back to the concept of pushing a product you didn't ask for. They're in the emails that are pushing a link or an offer on you. They're in the websites with these extra download buttons. They're in the pop-up ads. They're even in some of your familiar installers. Java is a great example that's got toolbars and extra installers on it. A lot of people like to fly through those installers and just push next, 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 just to get the program installed. That goes back to saying what I was saying earlier. You're in a hurry, so you just want to next, 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 but you're not reading what's on your screen, and it can cause a lot of issues. Now what you can do, you can start to train yourself to look at every pushed offer as something you probably don't want. Like I said, it's not like the real world where maybe you would like a drink with your meal. It's not like that on the computer. Pushed offers are usually nasty things. Now, I will say that sometimes we do need to follow up on some things. Like that email I had earlier with my American Express card. It was claiming that I had somebody hack into my account. Well, if I had an American Express card, which I do not, which was one of the main reasons I knew that that email was fake, if I had an American Express card, maybe I would like to follow up on that. But there's a much, much, much better way to do it than responding to that email or by clicking that link. And that's how we stay safe. That's how we're going to do it. So the first step is to disregard that push. Disregard the email. At least ignore the email. Turn your back on it. Even if you want to follow up on it just to make sure, ignore whatever action it's telling you to do. That action is asking you to let itself through that protective bubble. That's what it's doing. So if we disregard the push, we can ignore that altogether. Then the second thing we can do, we can follow up through a legitimate venue. Essentially, this means that if we were walking down a shady street, which that's what I want you to do. I want you to treat your internet experience as a walk down a shady street. Now, you've got your protective bubble, but even outside of that bubble, there are shady salesmen everywhere trying to offer you stolen watches, things that maybe you might want or need. So you might be thinking to yourself, you know what, I really do need a watch. That does not mean you should let that shady salesman into that bubble. You turn your back on him and you find a jewelry store or a shopping mall and buy from somebody you know isn't going to get you into trouble. And going back to that email that I was mentioning, the one that I might be worried about if I had an American Express card, I'm not going to respond to that email. Instead, I'm going to pick up a phone book and I'm going to call the bank. I'm going to call American Express. I'm going to Google American Express and find their actual website. And I'm going to dial a customer service number that I might find on that website. I don't want to fall into the trap of convenience. Yes, it'd be much easier for me to respond through this email, but it's not a safe way to do it. So that's not what I want to do, and that's not what I want you to do. So going back to the Flash Player pop-up, for example, instead of pushing OK on that really similar looking dialog box, something that I might think actually belongs on my system, if I remain suspicious because that was pushed on me, I can go to Adobe's website and I can download the Flash Player myself, and I know that will be safe. So that's how we're going to work there. Again, I'm going to go back to this screen. One, we're going to disregard the push. We're going to disregard the add-on. We're going to ignore what they want me to do, whether or not it's legitimate. Because that, although they're telling you to act, it's actually very passive. They're initiating everything. They're getting you to play by their rules, to act how they want you to. That's why if we ignore it altogether and follow up through a legitimate venue, through something we know is real, we're taking the action into our own hands. I can call up American Express and I can ask the customer service rep, hey, do I have any issues with my card? I have this email and it seems that I might have had somebody hack into my account. Do you know anything about that? They'll look into your account and they will verify it for you. So that's how you take care of the problem. So let's go into updates a little bit more before we finish up here. And I want to talk about updates a little more because that's a major method of pushing something on you. That's something that happens all the time in legitimate ways. Legitimate, actual, real updates for actual, real programs get pushed on you from all sorts of software. I mentioned Java before, Adobe Flash, your PDF reader, Adobe, that's another program, Adobe Reader, Microsoft programs even, they will oftentimes alert you that an update is available. We see that phrase a lot, an update is available. And that's probably why pushing malware on you through fake updates is so effective, because we just fly through these updates thinking that it's all okay. We just say, oh, yet another update, I don't think I need to read this because it's all self-automated. Well, that's how we can get ourselves into trouble. But again, if we apply this rule by disregarding the push and following up through a legitimate venue, then we're going to stay safe. We can go to the website for our program. We can go to Microsoft.com and download the service update there. We can go to the Adobe Flash Player website and download the update there. We can go into the program itself if we want, like the case of Adobe Reader. We can go in there, and a lot of times we'll find the update option under the About menu, maybe under the File and Settings menu. But that's what we're going through, something we know is real, something we know is legitimate, like the program we already have, and we ourselves are taking action to update that program. So one last time, I really want you to get this idea. I really want you to work on disregarding the push, noticing a push, noticing when you're being asked to take action, not when you yourself are, but when somebody is coming to you, something is coming to you and saying, do this. That's a push, and that's what we want to ignore. But if we need to follow up, we follow up through a legitimate venue. Alright, getting ready to close up here. The last thing I want to do is appeal to the detectives in the audience. And if you're like me, you might have a little bit of fun actually kind of looking through your emails and trying to figure out if something is legitimate or not. I get a lot of junk emails that are just so blatantly obvious, like those famous Prince of Nigeria emails where the Prince of Nigeria needs some money from me, and of course they'll pay me back 100-fold if I just give them $1,500 or maybe give them my bank account information. I will be a rich dude. Those ones are the pretty obvious ones, but there are some, again, like anything having to do with a bank account or something. I have this old one here. It was an old PayPal email telling me that I have transactions blocked from an unfamiliar location using my account. Then it gives an IP address to make it look even more legitimate. But the thing is, there are all kinds of clues spread out across this email. And when I go through it, all these little clues kind of raise little flags for me. And as soon as I get a little flag raised, as soon as you get a flag raised in your mind, that's where I want you to consider following up through a legitimate venue. So the first flag for me was the email address. Not mine, but the one that sent the email to me. And it says PayPal here, but next to it, it's from services@payee.com. It doesn't say PayPal anywhere in there. Now that in itself isn't unusual, but I've never heard of payee.com. I know PayPal.com, but maybe I'm not totally sure yet. Maybe I'm not totally sold. Maybe PayPal does have a payee.com somewhere in it. So I still don't want to act on this, and in fact I never would. I would call PayPal myself. But for now, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of wondering, is this legitimate or is this not? So maybe I'll go down and look a little bit more, and the next thing I see is an attachment. And every time you see an attachment in an email, you should have every flag in your brain raised. You should be seeing all sorts of red flags all over the place. And that's because attachments, these are the things that you need to let into your bubble. This email, just looking at it in itself, isn't going to do anything. My bubble is protecting me right now. But if I download this email, I'm letting it in. So just the fact that an attachment is here, I'm worried. Now, if I look even further at the attachment is actually an HTML file. And now some of you savvy folks might know that that is actually a web page, but that maybe that doesn't say HTML. Maybe it says form.doc or docx, the Microsoft Word file. So maybe that is not there, and I certainly don't expect everybody to know the difference of an HTML file and a Word document. So maybe that didn't quite raise a red flag, but like I said, the fact that it's an attachment to begin with, big red flag. So I'm going down a little bit more, and whenever I reach the body of an email and I like to look at it and scrutinize it, I start to realize that almost every single illegitimate, is that a word? Illegitimate? Every single illegitimate email is going to have some kind of spelling errors or formatting errors or unprofessional formatting. In this case, I've got the date here that says Wednesday 17/12/2014. The first red flag there is that date format, that's the European date format. Canada might use it as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But for a company that resides in the United States, sending an email to somebody within the United States, that European date format doesn't really belong in there. So there's a red flag right there. The next one, right after the date, I don't have any kind of address. What I mean is, they don't say Dear Mike anywhere in there. They don't say my last name. They don't have my account number. They don't have anything there. And to top that part off, it goes right into the next paragraph. There's no line break after that date. So do you see what I mean when I say this is unprofessional? PayPal.com is a big company. They hire professional people to send out professional emails. So that's a little weird. Now, looking through it, I don't remember if I saw any spelling errors in this one. But in general, that's about all I found in there were those things. So that should at least be plenty to raise some red flags and say that, oh, maybe this isn't real. Maybe. Thank you all for watching this video. I really hope that you learned something from it, or at least maybe you know somebody who could take away some information from it. This video is part of a sort of sample of what I want to do with my GoFundMe account and possibly my Kickstarter account, which I will link to both of those below. Now, what I really want to do is I want to set up an entire course of videos designed to take somebody from a beginning technology user to an intermediate technology user. So I want to do that with these simple, friendly videos that I can sort of show people the ropes. Now, one common thing that I've noticed, I teach technology at the library actually, so people come in with their devices, and one big problem that I've noticed out there is that all the information available out there for people's devices is very exclusive to their devices. So when somebody wants to learn how to use their iPhone 5, they find an iPhone 5 instruction booklet, or somebody shows them specifically how to use an iPhone 5 with step-by-step instructions. And eventually, somebody asks me, I don't know how you remember all this. Well, really, I don't. I don't have a file system in my head that, I pick up an iPhone 4 running iOS 6.0.4, and then I look at that file and I know how to do it. I don't do that. No, there are basic, fundamental commonalities between all devices. something that's similar in all of them. And that's kind of what I want to teach people. I want to do it for free. I want all these YouTube videos to be free, and I want them to remain free. But in order to do that, I need to take some time off of work, some time to make some lesson plans, similar to the one I have here. This was a very rough lesson plan. I only had a weekend to make this video, and I'd really like to have a lot more detail, a lot more information, and I'd like to weed out the stuff that maybe I don't need people to know. Maybe that people can go without knowing themselves. So that's what the purpose of all of this is. I'd like to do, I don't know, 8 to 12 videos, all ranging around the half-hour mark. And by the end of watching all the videos, I'd like people to feel like they have confidence to move forward with learning technology. I'd like them to be able to pick up another device they're not familiar with. Maybe, they've got an iPhone, but they want to check out a Samsung tablet. I'd like them to be able to navigate through that. I'd like people to know how to use Google and find information. I'd like to allow people the opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet with technology and to move forward confidently. So go ahead and below my video here, you'll see links to my GoFundMe and my Kickstarter accounts, and share this and let people know what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make money off of it. I'm just trying to make a living while I make these videos and then have them out there for people to use. I think that we really need to start rethinking how we're teaching people technology, because I think we're leaving a lot of people behind and we're not teaching them the way that works for them. So I've had a lot of success with this, with teaching this sort of curriculum with my library patrons who come to me for help, but it's not something I get to do very often. It's a very small part of my job, and I'd like to reach more people if I could. I get a lot of compliments on people being able to use their devices after meeting with me, and that's really what I want to do. I really want to help a lot of people out, help as many people out as I can. So I would really appreciate any kind of donation. If you go to my Kickstarter, you'll find some rewards there. Rewards are going to include digital copies of the videos, DVDs or thumb drives of the videos, so you can give them to people who maybe don't have internet access but still would like to learn some of this stuff. So head on over to Kickstarter or GoFundMe, and we'll try and get something started, and I'd really, really appreciate your donations. Thanks, everybody.